Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Highways and Hilltops. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jodi. Today on episode 5, we're going to pick up right where we left off in episode 4. If you recall, we were leaving Apgar Village on the west side of Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. We did talk a little bit about what Apgar Village looked like, so if you missed episode 4, be sure that you go back and listen to that one. Apgar Village is a really cool place that you're going to want to check out if you find yourself in Glacier National Park. One thing about the drive down to Apgar Village is you get to drive all along Lake McDonald, and as you're headed toward Apgar Village, you can see the lake on the right. A lot of paddleboarders use that and kayakers like we mentioned before, but the view of the lake is really amazing as you head down toward Apgar Village.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and on day one we chose to start on the east side and work our way through, basically doing all the pull-offs, those types of things. We were excited. We just wanted to see the whole thing. So we go from the east end all the way to the west. And if you remember on the earlier episode, we talked about that's where your timed reservations come in, right on the west side. And then we wanted to go all the way through to Apgar and all the way back, get to see everything the first day, and then we were going to come back and plan some hikes.
Yeah, but you might recall whenever we left Apgar Village, it's a right turn only, and that took us outside of the gate on the west side of the park. That's where our tribal tag came in, and we were waved through.
Yeah, what's important there is the west side, and we've covered this a little bit before, but on the west side, you have to have a time reservation. So we were about 2:30, I believe, something like that. It was either 3 or 3:30. You could come in without a reservation.
Yeah, 3, I think.
So 3 o'clock, we were a little bit early, so they made us turn right. We went down there and turned around and came back, and then we realized now we really have learned the time entry thing. They seen our Cherokee tag. They waved us through. We kind of laughed. But if you are coming from the east to the west, go ahead, do all the pull-offs, see everything your first day, of course, because you're just anxious. You want to see everything. But try to time it when you're down there eating in Apgar and walking around. Don't leave there till it's 3 o'clock, because after 3 o'clock, you don't have to worry, and then you can just get through. So.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to continue our trek back to the east side today. So you might recall that we went from the east side at St. Mary, we drove up to Logan Pass and ate breakfast, we did the Loop Trail, we saw Heaven's Peak, and then by that time we were getting hungry for lunch, so we went to Apgar Village. So now what we did on the way back from Apgar was we hit a lot of those pull-offs that we saw on the way there, but we didn't take the time to stop at because we knew on the way back through that we were going to try to stop and see some of those things.
It's a good time, too. It seems like things clear out a little bit. Everybody's anxious in the mornings. So going through and seeing everything and then coming back and stopping, you have less issues with parking, or at least we felt that way. You will, want to pull off somewhere and you can't find a parking place. So you have to move to something else. So you kind of go back and forth. But what stood out to me is this 51 miles from the east gate to the west gate. It didn't feel like we'd went anywhere. You were so into everything and seeing everything and how beautiful it was. I didn't feel like we traveled 50 miles. I mean, we started in the morning. It's now 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it just feels like we got started. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it did. And you know what? It's crazy to me that it's taken us 2 podcasts to walk you through this, through everything that we've seen. But we will get back to the east side today, and we'll be finished with Going to the Sun Road. But we can't stress enough that I can't even find the words to tell you what this looks like.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I really enjoy, as we do these podcasts, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but we flip through the pictures.
Right.
Because you keep saying, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful. You've never seen anything like this. But how do you describe something like that? So on the website, you got the pictures, and so you can flip through the pictures as you're going back and listening to the podcast, and you can see what we're talking about. Because how do you describe something that pretty?
Yeah, you guys are going to have to go look. I'll tell you what I've done for you. I have put those pictures in order for you on our website in the photo gallery because what I really do want it to feel like a virtual tour for you. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're on the website and you're flipping through the pictures, we'll be talking about what you're looking at. So that's what I'm trying to create for you out there, is more like a virtual tour, and I really hope that you're enjoying that. So if you are, give us some feedback. You can email me at jodi@highwaysandhilltops.com, or you can go drop us a line on our social media. Remember, on Facebook, we are Highways and Hilltops. On Instagram, we are Jodi Charlie Keith, and then our website is www.highwaysandhilltops.com. So be sure and go check all of those things out.
One of my favorite things on there is the video. You can hear the water. because I keep saying it's rushing, it's so deep, but it just doesn't do it justice. We've all been to Colorado, places like that. There's snow melt that causes these streams and beautiful trout streams and all that. They're so pretty. But when you get here, it's just it's a completely different description. It's walls of water that's just rushing out of these mountains. And you look for these little eddies and things like that, and you look for the trout, and of course the trout are bigger, and it's just so beautiful. Again, that word, beautiful.
Yeah, we don't know. Magnificent, majestic, beautiful. Guys, just know that those words mean we don't even know how to describe it because it's beyond our vocabulary.
To us, it's God's creation, right? It's something different.
Yeah, if I imagine what parts of heaven are going to look like, I definitely think that Glacier National Park has to be giving us some glimpse of heaven. Okay, before we jump in today, we have mentioned our dog a couple of times because sometimes you hear him bark in the background or scratch on the door or flap his ears. And a little while ago, he was just eating my feet. So if you heard him making snort noises, it's because he was trying to chew my toes through my socks. But that just tells you a little bit about Scout. So Scout is our English Shorty Jack Russell Terrier. He is brown and white. He's 3 years old and he's weighing in right around 15 pounds. I would describe him as a Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah. And for those of you who work from home and you kind of get attached to these pets. So now I work from home with this dog. I travel with this dog and he loves snacks. He loves naps. And he loves to play, and he is very high energy, and he's a lot of fun, but he's a lot of fun to travel with too. So,
yeah, and I call him a Sour Patch Kid because he can be the sweetest, laid back, want to take a nap and snuggle you dog that you've ever seen, or he can be vicious in a tiny package.
Well, there's a leave sleeping dogs lie rule. He has to have a good solid 12 hours, and when he's sleeping, you leave him alone, and when he's tired, you put him to bed. But it's kind of funny, all the pictures of him. You'll get a chance to meet him on the website.
Yeah, be sure and go check out Scout. He's got his own hashtag Traveling Scout. That's traveling with one L. Traveling Scout. You can look him up on Facebook or Instagram, and I promise as his community of followers grows that I will be mindful to take more pictures of him. One thing you need to know about him is he hates the phone camera. So whenever I put the phone camera up to snap a picture of him, he jumps at me and growls.
You know what I've noticed about all the travelers, so this little RV community that we get to meet people, right? So I love to meet people, and we go to these places, and it seems like everybody has that traveling dog. That's kind of the fun of RVing, right? When you leave here, you leave with your whole family. You go on these trips. It's really funny how people are. We get kind of silly about our dogs, I guess. So
yeah, for sure. Scout is very protective of his things and anything he perceives to be his. So if it was yours 2 seconds ago and now he stole it and is in possession of it, it now belongs to him, and he will fiercely protect it and try to keep you from getting it. So
well, he's got a trade policy.
Yes, he does have a trade policy.
So it's okay if I found it, it's mine, but you have to trade me. So,
and usually that's a greenie or a snack of some sort. Greenies get the job done. So we're not sponsored by Greenie, but hey Greenie, our dog eats a lot of greenies. So if you'd like to sponsor us, we could use some help there. We did mention that we travel in a Class B van. So Scout has heat. The heat works really great in a van. If you've never owned one, the heat is one of the best things about it. It has propane heat, and that little heater can run forever. And so if it's cold, he is nice and toasty in there. He's got his heater on, he's got his toys, he's got his food, and he is good to go for a while.
You know, the thing about these Class B vans, we love all RVs, right? And we're looking at all RVs all the time. So we're constantly in search of whatever the next one is. We mentioned earlier we plan to go full-time. As soon as we can retire, we're going full-time. We're not coming home. So we love them all. But the nice thing about this Class B is this. We actually use it to drive back and forth to work. We just came from Walmart. We had a refrigerator to put ice cream and things like that in. I mean, these things are so handy. You can park in any parking space. You can take it to dinner. It sets up fast. I mean, they're just really, really nice. And the thing I've found too is there's different brands. You can spend as much money on any of these as you want to, but you can buy a nice van for the price of a real nice truck. And they seem to work just fine. And, there's always lots of questions. You get out on the road in your RV and you're talking to your neighbors and stuff, and everybody has a preference and they're all fantastic. You're going to get to work on all of them, so that just get past that. But the cool thing about these vans, again, is just the convenience. Again, everybody has something different. I think we'll end up using different vehicles for different situations, but these vans are affordable and they're super convenient. And I'll tell you, we take a good shower in there. We eat well in there. We sleep well in there. It's really nice to be traveling down the road, and if you want to make popcorn or whatever, or you just need to use the restroom, it's right there. So more about those in the coming months. We'll be talking more about the ones we're looking at, the ones we're thinking about purchasing, the one we're going to use for full time, the one we're using now. We're even planning a trip right now to Eureka Springs for a weekend. So it's literally like go to the driveway, throw some clothes in there, and take off to Eureka Springs, come back for a weekender trip. So again, weekends, months at a time, and we've used it for everything, and it is sure handy.
Yeah, it is. It's also nice that Scout can hang out there during the day when we're on hikes, and then we don't have to worry about him necessarily being at the campground. And when we get back from hikes, we can just take him. He wants to play, y'all, so if you hear him barking in the background, I'm probably not going to try to cut all of those out unless he gets really loud. Whenever we get back from hikes, we can get him out and take him to use the bathroom right there in the parking lots and things like that.
Got fresh clothes.
Yes.
If you're on a hike and you get your feet wet, you got fresh clothes, you got water to put in your packs, you just got everything right there while you're in the park. This park's not so bad as far as where you drive in and drive back to your campsite. It's not too far, but other parks are. It seems like it's a long way back. So having to go back every time you want to eat or anything. So at least for now, until we're full time, this one really does fit the bill.
Yeah, it does.
Pretty soon we'll do another episode. We'll talk about the maintenance on the van. We'll talk about some of the conveniences. We'll talk about some of the other trailers we're looking at.
Yep.
We're researching fifth wheels and different brands like Brinkley and Airstream and all those. And we'll talk about some of the ins and outs. Also, we're kind of learning a little bit about leasing. So we're talking about leasing this current van as we purchase the other, but we'll cover some of those things in a future episode to help people with some decisions if they're thinking of buying or even renting.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in, and remember, we left Apgar Village. We're headed back east on Going to the Sun Road, and we didn't hit every single overlook, but we're going to talk about the ones that we did hit. But you do need to know that there are a couple of really majestic things in Glacier National Park that we didn't get to do, like Avalanche Lake. So don't worry, we're going to go back at some point because we have to hike Avalanche Lake. We need to be in a little bit better shape next time we go to be ready to do that hike. But Avalanche Lake, Sprague Lake, the Lake McDonald Lodge, the Johns Lake Loop, and the Trail of the Cedars, we didn't do any of those. We're going to have to go back so that we can add those to our trip. But we do have some other great things that we did get to do while we were in Glacier National Park. We only had 3 days, and we had to be kind of selective about what we were able to fit in.
Sure. Planning a 3-week trip across the country, we could have probably done the whole trip there, right? So you're always going to go back, so that's the fun part. So.
Yeah, for sure. We have something to look forward to. So we are going to stop at McDonald Falls Overlook. So that's going to be the first thing that we come to whenever we leave Apgar Village. And this is a small roadside parking pull-off. And I kind of thought that it was going to be more of a trail, but it's pretty much a retaining wall that you walk down beside. It has a set of 5, 6, 7 steps, and then a very small, short trail to an overlook through the trees, and you can kind of see the falls. When you go out and look at the picture on the website, you'll see that I couldn't get a great view from up there, but the trail was closed off for some reason. I don't know if it had been washed out or something was going on that trail, and they had it closed off to the public, so you could only walk down a little ways. But man, that water, I don't know how water can be clear and aqua at the same time, but it was.
Yeah, this one's definitely worth a stop. You're not going to exert yourself real bad here, so that's another great thing about getting to see all you can without going on these long hikes. But the water coming down through there, I mentioned it earlier, it's just amazing how powerful this water is and how beautiful this spot is. Lots of bluffs, lots of mountain views from the overlook behind you. Lots of water. We talked about those eddies a little bit. I like to look for those eddies. If you don't know what an eddy is, it's basically you have all this rushing water coming down through there. And the trout fishermen know exactly what this is. They've learned how to read these. But these little spots where there's big boulders that cause the water to be diverted. And so it'll be very swift on left and right of the boulder, but maybe right behind the boulder it's really calm and it has a little eddy where it's swirling in there. Those are the places, if you'll watch for those trout, you'll get to see them. Mm-hmm. We've seen some of the biggest trout I've ever seen. And a lot of these trout up here, they're not just rainbows and stuff. I mean, there's cutthroat and all kinds of really cool fish. So be watching for those eddies and these overlooks and these little hikes. Be watching for those trout. It's really, really pretty.
Yeah, there's one part of the creek right here where the water was churning so hard, it literally looked like someone put bubble bath in it. It was just white foam coming up to the top, tons of bubbles. It's just crazy.
The water coming off the top of this continent is way different than, say, way other areas down lower where the streams are just kind of they're swift, but they're not rapid.
Yes.
I mean, these are rapids.
These are definitely rapids. So, listen, it's worth it. You may have to drive by there a couple of times before you find a spot to park because the parking, like I said, it's kind of roadside. Or you may have to park and walk down going to the Sun Road for a little ways to get to the parking or to get to the trail. But it's definitely worth the stop to see the McDonald Falls from the Overlook because that water coming down through there is just crazy.
People park on the side of the road. There's pull-offs up and down the road. I mean, so you may have to walk another 100 yards or something like that, but it's no big deal.
Yeah, it's not that big deal. Okay, so once we finished at McDonald Falls Overlook, we jumped back in the van and didn't have to go very far before we came to our next pull-off spot, and that was Red Rock Point. And I believe this one was one of your favorites.
Yeah, you'll spend a little more time at Red Rock. So you get to go down to an overlook again, just like you just came from. But as you go down there, there's more trails.
Yes.
And then you can walk along the streams. It's a little bit calmer in these areas. It's more like a pocket and less of a rapid. And then these big old rocks that stick way out into the water. And there's lots of people down there that were sunbathing, and they were kind of wading through some of the water, which the water is super cold. I mean, it's coming off the glaciers. It's really, really cold, even in June, probably even in July for that matter.
Yeah.
I think they say that, I forget what the temperatures are for trout, but I mean, this is always cold water, so they're not really swimming. But we go out to the point. Weston and I go down the creek a ways, we crawl out on this big old rock that goes almost completely across. And there's a picture of it on the website. It's so cool. You're looking up at a bridge where you just drove in. The water's coming down there. It's sweeping back and forth. It's coming over some falls. There's mountains everywhere. But in these spots, you get to see the really clear water. It's not calm, but it's not white water. So you get to see down in there. And we walked up and down this thing looking for trout and different stuff. And so it's really, you'll spend much more time at this little spot than you did the previous spot. But it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and when we talk about rocks that are just huge and jetting out into the creek, there's going to be a picture on the website that you guys have to go look for. And at first glance, it just looks like a big rock structure with water running on the other side of it and then a bunch of green trees behind it. But I want you to look really, really close on the point of that rock because there are people out there. But the rocks are so big that you can totally lose the people in this picture.
Yeah. These have to be granite rocks. It's that gray kind of rock. Really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and these have a red hue to them, and I was going to look up why, and I forgot to, so I would put a link in the show notes about why red rocks are red.
On this same spot, there'll be a picture, probably the last picture. It's when the stream finally gets by all of us over the lookout and everything, and it turns to go around a corner, and that's the one that's just so clear. It's rushing water coming into a spot, and then it just settles out into like a gravel area. And we spent a lot of time down there playing. So.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of people were waiting in that part. And you can't see them in the picture. That's just because it was creative photography. But I did take a picture where the water is, like, you'll see it churning. And then this picture of the pool that just looks aquamarine, and you can see the gravel bottom because it's shallow, was literally right next to that churning water. This is just a pool like an eddy, like Charles said, that is just really, really clear and cool and calm.
We talk about people, but I don't remember feeling crowded. On this rock, I think we've seen 5 or 6 people. On the trail, we might have seen 2 or 3 groups sometimes. I mean, I didn't feel one time in this whole trip to feel like I was crowded by people.
Yeah, me either. Also at the Red Rocks area, they have a nice boardwalk. So there's a lot of trees in that area, which creates a lot of trunk growth over the trail sometimes. And in some of those places, you have to be careful that you don't trip over those trunks. But in this particular area, they have a boardwalk that leads out to a big deck that's an overlook deck. And you'll see that some of the pictures that I posted on the website, you can tell that I'm taking them from an elevated position. And if you'll flip through there, you'll see a picture of me standing in the corner of that deck. It's a pretty good size deck, so plenty of people can fit on it. And it gives you a really great view of the rapids as they're coming and cascading over those giant rocks. And then also of the calm areas. So the deck is really nice. It makes this a good place to stop. And it also makes it accessible for lots of people to be able to walk out and visit this place.
You know, I say this a lot, but here's the deal to me. There needs to be a lot of places that you can go and not exert yourself. Because there's going to be days when you're going to make those 10-mile hikes. There's going to be days you don't want to make those 10-mile hikes.
Yep.
Plus, like in our family, we got some of our family that want to hike 20 miles. We got some of our family that don't want to hike at all. Mm-hmm. So the cool thing about this entire park is there's plenty to do. You mentioned this deck. With a little effort, you could get someone down there that doesn't want to walk or maybe even a wheelchair. And just really neat that someone that maybe can't hike can still enjoy this entire park, and it's not a big deal.
Oh yeah, I totally love that about this park. It makes it one of my favorite places that we've ever been. Okay, so y'all be sure and go check out the pictures of the Red Rock area. Believe me, we can't adequately explain it with words. So you're just going to have to go look at the pictures and see it for yourself.
So we're leaving Red Rock Point. The next stop is Sacred Dancing Cascades. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a unique feature. I don't think I've seen this anywhere we've ever been.
Yeah, for sure. This is, I think it's supposed to be a light cascading creek, but while we were there with the big snowmelt that was going on, it was definitely a waterfall. And it has big rocks. This is so this would be just up the creek from the Red Rocks area where we talked about the churning water. So this is still churning water right now in June with all the snow melt, but it's a really beautiful waterfall. It goes the whole width of the creek, and then the water kind of levels out, and then it hits some more boulders and it becomes rapids again. It's really pretty.
It's like a big staircase.
Yeah, it is like a big staircase. And this place has a horse bridge. So down at the McDonald Ranch, they do horse trail riding. So you can go buy a trail ride. And I think that this horse bridge is here because they likely cross it when they're going to the Upper McDonald Creek Trail. And the cool thing about that is this bridge is really, really sturdy, well-built bridge. You can cross it as foot traffic as well, and you can get over to the Upper McDonald Falls Creek Trail. And for those of you who were listening back in episode 2, you know that I renamed this trail Two Snakes Trail because this is where the snakes were at my head level when I was shooting that video and didn't even know it. So if you haven't heard the snake story, be sure and go back and listen to episode 2 so you can get all caught up with that. But this is the trail where the snakes were. And also where we got to see bear grass.
Yeah, so all these places that we're pulling off and looking, the hikes are just right there. So as you're standing sometimes on the lookouts, you'll look out in the woods and you'll see a trail of people coming back and forth. So we're just going back to all the pull-offs. But keep in mind, this is where people are hiking right behind there. And as we start our hikes, these are the places we'll come back by.
Yeah. When we were down at that McDonald Falls Overlook, we could see people over on this trail. And we were like, how did they get over there?
Yeah.
And we were looking for a place to cross down there because we saw people. We thought there was a place to cross there. But what we realized is they're probably using this horse bridge, or they were starting back down at Apgar Village and walking that trail on that other side of the creek.
Yeah, when you go to these pull-offs, some of them are just overlooks. Mm-hmm. But then you go to the next one, it'll give you trailhead signs.
Yeah.
So you'll end up going back by your pull-offs.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Really easy to find. The ones that are hiking trails, it tells you how far, where you're going. It gives you an arrow pointing that direction. And then some of them are just pull-offs and just places to overlook.
Yeah, and be sure and go look at these pictures. This trail was amazing. It had huge pine trees, and I've got a picture of Weston, who was just ahead of us on the trail, and he's about 6 foot tall, so that'll give you a little bit of indication about how giant these trees are that you're walking through and winding through as you go down this trail. Again, this is the Upper McDonald Creek Trail. We accessed it at the Sacred Dancing Cascades by walking across the horse bridge, and we only walked a couple of miles down this trail, but it was really beautiful. We did see the snakes up in the rock on this trail, and we also saw a mule deer. He was kind of over in the trees and in the brush a little way from us. He really wasn't scared of us at all, but we got to watch him kind of walk through the trees, and then we just backed up and stopped, and he crossed the trail down in front of us heading to the creek.
Yeah, you mentioned that we're here in June, so the water's rushing and all this stuff. I would really be interested to know the people that go in July and August if the water's still doing that. I have a feeling this is the natural level of this water.
Yeah.
Coming off these, the glaciers and the snow melt and all that stuff, I feel like this place is always like this. I didn't see any water that was like rising out of the banks like you would in something that's flooded. So I really feel like this is the way this place looks all the time.
Yeah, it probably is. From this trail, you get great views of McDonald Creek, just so beautiful, and I've added a few more of those pictures on our website. Also, you can see how big the trees are. If you look for a picture of me, I was hugging the trunk of the tree, and Charlie took a picture of me so we could show that, I don't even think two of me on each side of the tree.
No, we couldn't get around that tree even if we tried to lock hands.
It.
You know what's funny about this picture? These trees are beautiful. They're big, all that stuff. This is the biggest things we've ever seen until we get to our next leg of our trip. And then when we get there, we're like, man, well, you remember how we thought those trees were big? So they're beautiful. I'm not running them down, but I'm just saying it just gets better and better. So.
Yeah, it is crazy because we'll just give you a spoiler alert. Redwood National Forest is coming up on a future episode. And it definitely makes these trees at Glacier that we thought were so big on this day, now we think they're small. Yeah.
And another spoiler alert, I'm standing in the root system underneath a tree, under the stump. So it's still a live tree. Uh-huh. It's just, how things wash under the roots or whatever. And I'm standing in there with my arms out as wide as I can, and I'm not even making a difference. So that gives you an idea how big those trees are.
Yeah, so you're going to want to stay tuned on this road trip because that Redwood National Forest, woo! Gosh, when we get there, we're going to have lots to say about that.
It's like Colorado's just beautiful, beautiful trees. And then you get here, they're taller and, the canopy's higher. And then by the time you get all the way to the redwoods, they're even bigger. And then they have the ferns, and it's more of a, if you've seen Star Wars, those trees, that's where it was shot, right? Mm-hmm. So it just gets better and better as the farther you go down this trip.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, so McDonald Falls Creek and the Sacred Dancing Cascades, you're not going to want to miss that if you go to Glacier National Park. It is a must-see. We will warn you that we were there. It was coming on probably 5 o'clock or so by now, and those mosquitoes, oh my gosh.
Real deal.
The mosquitoes ain't playing, y'all. And you know how you always hear that the mosquitoes down in Louisiana are gigantic? Okay, I'm just gonna say I need to see a side-by-side comparison of the Louisiana mosquitoes and the Wyoming/Montana mosquitoes, because those mosquitoes at Yellowstone and at Glacier bite you through your clothes and make you bleed.
yeah, take your stuff, take your bug sprays and the stuff with the good stuff, Get the good stuff for your mosquitoes.
Definitely get the good stuff. I was probably under the impression that because it's so cold up there that there wouldn't be mosquitoes. And I learned a really hard lesson when we got chased by them at Yellowstone, that mosquitoes are a real deal up in the north. And so I wasn't surprised that they were at Glacier, but our bug spray was also, I tried a new kind and it didn't really work that well. So I'm glad Charlie had a hat on because he was swatting them away from me. They tend to really love me more than anybody else in the family, except for maybe Bailey. Me and Bailey, they really love. And I don't know what it is about us, but for some reason, the mosquitoes are very much try to be our best friend, and we don't want to return the favor. As we left Sacred Dancing Cascades and meandered our way back toward the east side of Going to the Sun Road, we captured many beautiful views along the way, so you're going to want to make sure and go check out all of the majestic valley views and mountain views in the photo gallery for episode 5, so that you can see just how beautiful this place really is. Places like Haystack Falls. Haystack Falls is named because there is a butte above it called Haystack Butte. But if you look at Haystack Falls really closely and zoom in on the picture, you'll see that it looks like stacks of square bale hay. And the water just cascades down those stacks. It's really something. When you're driving from the west to the east, you actually come down a straightaway that turns into a hard right curve, and at that point you get the most beautiful view of Haystack Falls. It falls 450 feet as it cascades down the rocks of what they call the Garden Wall in Glacier National Park. If you'll go check out this picture, you'll see why it's called the Garden Wall. It has lush vegetation growing all over it, and then the water, the snow melt, is cascading down these haystacks.
You'll have some spots that are kind of prairie type places, and then you'll have some spots that are just super green like a garden. It has something to do with the way that water comes down those valleys and keeps things growing.
It does. And this is also one of those bridges like Charlie mentioned earlier that you can see from the Red Rocks area. A fun fact is that as they were constructing Going to the Sun Road, they built a lot of culverts where waterfalls come off the side of the mountain, and then it kind of makes an arch bridge. And they run under the road and then into another fall or continue down the mountain or the slope or whatever's on the other side. All of that construction material, they use what they blasted out of the mountains. So it makes it so beautiful to look at as you look at the rock retaining walls and all of these archways that they've built for the water runoff and these culverts. It's really something.
We first seen this at the Weeping Wall, and you remember I mentioned the water was going under the road, and I was like, where's this water going? I thought it was a creek down beside the road, but as we got down past that and looked back, we realized that it was actually carved out of solid rock in these culverts, and they're turning the water under the road. Really, really neat.
Remember when Charlie mentioned that Going to the Sun Road was called an engineering feat? And actually, back in episode 4, I put a link in the show notes to that publication from the National Park Service that's called Going to the Sun Road, an Engineering Feat. And if you really want to read all about the construction, go back to the episode 4 show notes and go look at that PDF. It's really an interesting read.
This is why we say when it was gravel in an earlier episode,
yeah.
How the heck did they do that, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't just have a culvert. These are big areas carved out of solid rock that turns water. And so anyway, just thinking about the gravel, I just can't imagine what that was like traveling this on a gravel road.
Can you imagine the maintenance that they had to do for the gravel for all the washouts?
Yeah, and there's already so much maintenance up here. You think about through the winter months and all the plowing and stuff that happens up there, and they close the road lots of times. This is definitely a place that, is meant to be visited in the summer months. And I think there's people that do visit in some more of the winter months. And I think they even see a lot of wildlife. But it comes with a little bit of heartache too, right? Going in when there's that much snow.
Yeah, and that cold.
That cold.
All right, so be sure that you go check those pictures out. Again, the Haystack Falls area is beautiful, and I've got everything labeled for you on the website. So as you flip through, or if you listen to the podcast while you're flipping through, you can make sure that what you're looking at is actually what's being pictured there. But Haystack Falls, it's really gorgeous, y'all. You just have to go see it. And it runs down into Haystack Creek, which is several hundred feet below Going to the Sun Road. And you can just kind of see it as it winds its way through that valley and probably dumps into McDonald Creek somewhere. At least that would be my guess.
And no matter where you're at, in the distance, there's mountains. Snow-capped mountains, and it feels like the sky's really low, kind of that traditional, your high country feeling when the sky's low, and it's just beautiful.
Yes, it is. The views are amazing.
You could probably take a lifetime hiking this park and never see the same trail.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Okay, the next cool thing that we got to see after Haystack Falls, and it's really, really close, is Birdwoman Falls. And there's a cool story behind Birdwoman Falls, but as you're looking at it, A couple of things to keep in mind. This is one of the tallest waterfalls in the park at 492 measurable feet. It actually is a double-tiered waterfall. It falls twice. And I think I read once that that main measurement may be only one of the height measurements on it. So it could actually be quite a bit taller than that. In the picture from the Birdwoman Falls Overlook, you get to see 3 mountains. And so this is cool. On the left is Mount Oberlin. Right behind it is Clements Mountain. And over to the right is Mount Cannon. And the waterfall just seems to be perfectly centered between all 3 of them. It's really pretty. A fun fact about Birdwoman Falls, the USGS reports that in February 1998, a proposal was submitted to change the name of Birdwoman Falls to Sacagawea Falls. But this was rejected in 1999 by the Board of Geographic Names. And here's the story. Sacagawea was Shoshone, but in 1800 she was captured by the Hidatsa, and I hope that I did not mess up that name. Hidatsa warriors during a raid, and they named her Sacagawea, but Sacagawea means bird woman. So they wanted to keep it Birdwoman Falls. So there's a little fun fact about Birdwoman Falls. And you can go look up more fun facts about Glacier National Park and all of the history. It's just so much fun to learn it all.
So I love this picture of Birdwoman Falls. And the thing that stands out to me is the 3 mountains, of course, that you described in the falls, but the distance to those mountains. And so this is a great place if you have a photographer in the family to really expand their skill set and have a lot of fun.
You have so much to frame. It just makes a beautiful, beautiful photo. All right, so as we continued our way down, going to the Sun Road, there will be several more pictures for you of all kinds of mountain views before we go back to Oberlin Bend. Also, you'll want to check out the Triple Arch picture. This is going to just look like a big wall of rock, probably. There's a little bit of a waterfall over on the left, and there's one of those under-the-road culverts where you can see the water flowing through and then down to a big shelf of snow that hasn't quite melted off yet. And then if you'll look over to the right, you'll see 3 of those arches. And this is called the Triple Arch area. And you can see it when you're driving from the west to the east as you're coming down a straightaway and heading into a right-hand curve. So again, this is one of those arches that we talked about, that the National Park Service used all of that stone that they blasted out of the mountain to construct this arch. And it is magnificent. Yeah,
it's a long right-hand curve. The thing that stood out to me here is it's just straight down.
Yeah.
And it's really, really a long ways down, and it's something to see. This, I think I called them sheer cliffs before. This is a sheer cliff place.
I mean, you would almost have to be like hanging over the edge to put that rock into place, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different mason job for sure.
That is crazy. So go check that out. I have a couple of pictures where you can see the arches and also the drop, the snow, the mountain, the green vegetation. It's just a beautiful sight through there. And then we got back to Oberlin Bend, and guess what? We got to see the bighorn sheep.
Bighorns.
The bighorn sheep were there. I have a really, really poor quality picture from my iPhone through the glass, but I also took a good one, and so I'll post them both so you can kind of see the difference. Scout was going crazy because, of course, bighorn sheep on the road, and they were causing a little bit of a traffic hiccup. So people were trying to take pictures of them. They had the traffic backed up. I think you held Scout so I could roll the window down and get a picture of them.
So anytime there's wildlife on the roads, it's just stopped, right? It's just everybody's used to this. Like the Yellowstones are this way. All the other parks are this way. Animals have the right of way. I remember when we stopped here, and then there was the traffic stop, I should say, and there was a guy who got out. Do you remember the guy who got out and was trying to feed one?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like, again, these are dangerous animals.
Yes.
This is a ram, right? He could just drop back and hit you so easily, but anyway, there's still some of that, but they're beautiful to see. We really always try to capture these pictures of these different animals up on the cliffs and things like that in a natural setting, but you do find them a lot on the road, crossing the road, stopping traffic. It's just part of it.
The truth of the matter is, anytime we've ever seen a bighorn sheep, it was on the road every single time.
Well, these are hard to get. They're up on sheer cliffs. They're a long ways away. This is the spotting scope thing we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You get to a pull off, you're really looking for these, and you want those great pictures, you've got to spot them on these ridges. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of animals on the road, but everybody gets good pictures of them. But those pictures, when you get them up on the ridges, those are the kind of the precious pictures. Those are the ones that are hard to get.
Absolutely. And I've yet to capture one of those, but I've gotten 3 or 4 different pictures of a bighorn sheep right on the road.
You know, that brings up another good point. We talk about the grizzlies. We talk about all the different animals, the elk, the mule deer I think we talked about earlier. You don't always see grizzlies and things like that, right? So just know if you're going to capture photographs of these animals, you're not always going to see everything you want to see. It's just part of it. One thing that we've learned too is if you'll do this early and late, you'll capture a lot more pictures of these animals, especially trying to catch these bighorn sheep up on ridge lines or your bears, elk. Animals tend to lay down during the midday. Keep in mind, it's been cold up here all year. They've wintered really hard. Now you're coming into the spring, summer months, and they lay around a lot. And they just lay around in different packs and stuff like that. So early and late will be your good times to capture these pictures of these animals. And again, a good spot and scope goes a long ways. These things are a long ways away.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up a good point. Whenever we went to Yellowstone, I assumed that we were going to see a bear. And as luck would have it, we did. Our first day entering Yellowstone from the east side by Cody, Wyoming, we just drove in and saw a pack of cars. And we pulled up and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And someone said, "There's a grizzly bear out there." And so we got out, the ranger was there, he was a long way away from the road. But we were able to get out and watch this grizzly eat on an elk carcass for, I don't know, an hour, maybe?
I think we ended up getting that picture at about 100 yards, something like that, 125 yards.
Or longer.
Or maybe a little longer than that. But it was good enough. We were safe, and, we used a long lens and we got him. But some people go several seasons without seeing a grizzly.
Yeah, that guy came by on the motorcycle and he was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And we were like, "There's a grizzly bear out there." So he parked and then he came back over there where we were and he was like, "Oh man, I've been riding this park for years and this is the first grizzly I've ever seen." And I think that's when it dawned on me that oh, this moment is really special.
Sure. And we got a great photograph of him. It was one of your first photography published pictures, JoJo's photography.
And it's very exhilarating when you get to see a grizzly. Remember, we went on down the road and we actually saw the mom and her cub that day too in Yellowstone. And I just remember what that guy said to me that day. And it just helps me remember how special those moments are when you do get to see the wildlife. And so make sure that you're paying attention to the rules and, just being safe. Because when people get hurt, that's what makes it hard for the rest of us to be able to go see. And you need to know what the rules are if you're going to go visit a park like this, because these are wild animals. Even the bighorn sheep that seem docile on the road, you still don't need to be approaching them. They are still wild animals. All right, so as we travel on down the road headed on east back to St. Mary, there are lots of views of snowdrifts and mountains and the evergreen trees. And I have a really good picture of a creek bed. And if you've ever wondered about the pictures that you see at Glacier online and they have all the different colored rocks in them and your mind is like, is that real or is that Photoshop? At least that's where my head goes. And it might be the photographer in me that's like, wait a minute, how heavily photoshopped is that? I just want to tell you, on this creek bed picture with these red cobblestone and white rocks and gray rocks that you can see in here, this is not photoshopped, y'all. This is straight from my iPhone, and this is all of the color variant that you can see in the rocks on the creek in Glacier National Park. That's how clear the water is and how much color you can see in all of the rock throughout the mountains.
It's crazy. Like Colorado, there's lots of grays and whites. Up here, there's the reds, the black. Remember the black basalt rock or whatever they call it?
Yeah, and even some teal colors.
Even some teal colors. So every park has different colors in the rock. It's really neat to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. So go check out those majestic views. But that's going to do it for today. But just remember, Episode 4 and Episode 5 was day 1 of going to the Sun Road. Now, it was all day. We spent all day out there running around, going to Apgar Village and eating lunch, coming back, going to all those overlooks. So we did take 2 episodes to talk you through it. But here's a fun fact that I want you to think about. Well, It's kind of an icky fact, but we'll just call it fun because we like fun a whole lot better. Remember, this is the morning that we left the wooded spot at the KOA. And all day while we've been getting in the van and out of the van, and Scout's been hanging out in the van while we were on hiking trails, that mouse has been in the van all day. And we didn't know it. So we figure it out tonight. So if you haven't heard the mouse story, you're going to have to go back to episode 2 so you can hear the whole thing. But just keep in mind that during episode 4 and 5, this mouse has been in the van the whole time, because we haven't made it back to camp yet when he starts to steal the dog food. And you can pick up there with that story in episode 2. All right. Do you have anything else?
Episode 6 is going to start the actual hikes.
Oh, yeah.
So these are really great, too. So day 1, again, is about let's just get everything seen. And then we're going to start the next couple of days. We're going to actually go on some of these real hikes, go back in the woods, go to the falls, go to different places. So
yes, it's going to be fun.
Those are great.
And when you start traveling along with us virtually, you're going to realize this is just how we roll. We're kind of that, oh my gosh, we're so excited, we got to go see everything, and then we're going to figure out what we really want to come back and do. We're those people. So hopefully you're enjoying that. And we've had a great time taking you along on our trip. And we love this for people who have dreamed of going to Glacier and are just trying to get up the nerve to book that trip and to make the plan and to go. We hope that this just kind of pushes you over the edge to give you enough confidence to go take the trip. And also for people who may not ever get to go, because we want you to enjoy it as well. And hopefully this virtual tour with our photos and our descriptions of everything and what we were able to experience while we were there will help you have some sort of glacier experience too.
Simplicity is what I like about Glacier National Park, at least the way we did it. St. Mary's, great place to stay. You can go on the east side. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. You can spend 2 or 3 days in there and have a great time. The admission fee is minimal. And it's just not an expensive trip. I think there's a lot of people that really love our national parks because they can do this, they can afford it, and everyone can go. St. Mary's, you can stay in a tent, you can stay in a cabin, you can stay in your RV. I mean, this is one of those trips that anybody can plan. It's not real hard to do. It's not real expensive. And I think it's a great thing for all the families and things that work every day and, can't afford these super expensive trips. And so let's look at the easy way to do it. Let's just have a good time.
Absolutely. And like Charlie said, and I want to reiterate, even if you just drove going to the Sun Road and never got out of your car, this trip would be worth it because you're never going to see anything else like this.
Well, as soon as we started hiking a lot, and we realized really quickly, there's 2 ways to do this. So you could go to St. Mary's and stay a week, drive going to Sun Road a couple of times, hang out at the camp, cook at camp, have your morning coffee and relax. Or you could go up here and you could sure get into some major hikes. If you could hike thousands of acres if you want to. So either way is a great way to do it. You could even go down to Apgar Village and spend the day on the lake, or like I said, hike. There's just so much for everybody. It doesn't have to be so strenuous. When we first started talking about doing these national parks, my first thought was, oh my gosh, these people are going to walk me to death. But we really haven't. So one day we'll drive to go in the Sun Road. One day we'll spend a day at the lake. One day you might spend the day at the camp just cooking and relaxing. One day you may go on a strenuous hike. But all in all, you get plenty of rest. You don't have to be in super great shape to do this. Now you're going to meet people that hike 10, 20 miles a day. They go into backcountry. So if you're that person, you want to go into backcountry and you really want to go into something difficult and the long ways that nobody's ever seen, you've got that too.
Yep, absolutely. There is something for everyone at Glacier National Park. So I think that's going to do it for us today, and we hope you've had a great time on episode 5. Be sure and join us next week for episode 6 as we continue our trek through Glacier National Park. And until then, we hope that you get to go explore something fun this week. We'll see you later.
See ya.